Welcome back, everyone, to the Shepherd Station. I'm Eric Duhame. As always, with me today is Thomas Brown. Unfortunately, we don't have Andy with us today. We had some inclement weather, and Andy's dealing with some stuff at his home. So our prayers are with him, and we miss you, buddy. He'll be back with us in the studio next time we meet. We want to thank you for tuning in and supporting us. We're getting a lot of good feedback on what we're doing, and everything goes to God's glory, and we appreciate what you guys are sending us. Come by and see us if you can. We're at the Stockyard today, as we always are. It's 24 East Church Street, Headland, Alabama. Come by and see us. Great food, good people to hang out with, great coffee. And as always, we always get our coffee from Mural City Coffee in Dothan, Alabama. If you can't see us, go by and see Zach and Destiny at Mural City Coffee. That's another little great place to hang out. So Thomas has got a few things he wants to add to this. Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah. So the first thing is that for those of you that use YouTube, we are now uploading our podcasts to YouTube. So the same day and the same time that they go live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else you listen to podcasts, they are also going live on YouTube now. So if you just go to YouTube and search for the Shepherd Station, you should find us, and you should see all of our podcasts on there. And then eventually the goal is that we are actually going to put out live videos of us doing this every week. And so be on the lookout for that. We're hoping to be able to start that pretty soon. But that leads me actually into the next thing, which is we are now, if you watch the Shepherd, or sorry, if you listen to the Shepherd Station, eventually you'll be watching. If you listen to the Shepherd Station and you enjoy what we're doing and you believe in what we are doing, we now have the ability to accept donations from our supporters, from our listeners, people like you that are listening right now on Spotify. And this would be a gift that would be monthly. And if you want to just give a one-time donation, you can contact us through Spotify, or you can email us. You can email me at thomashbrown378@gmail.com if you want to do something like that. Or Eric, we can get a hold of Eric somehow. Do you have a way?
Yeah, you can email me at jericduhame, that's JericDuhaime @gmail.com.
Yeah. And so that's a monthly donation on Spotify, but if you want to do a one-time donation, if you believe in what we're doing, we want to make this podcast something that is valuable to men in general, to help them become better fathers, leaders, husbands, better community leaders as well. And so if you believe in that and you want to support us in that mission, one of the best ways you can do that is just by donating. You can give a monthly gift of 99 cents. You can give a monthly gift of $4.99 or even $9.99. That's like the highest. So that's the idea, and that's what we have set up right now. We would just appreciate that so much if you did that. And eventually, the goal with our givers and our donations and things like that, we're going to have some kickback. So things that you will benefit from by being a supporter, a listener at the Shepherd Station. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to say. And thank you for those of you that do support us, those of you that do donate. And the number one way you can support us is just by listening to our podcast. That's the best way you can do that. And we are just blessed beyond that, if there's anything beyond that.
Absolutely. And the thing that we need to stress is, if you do donate to what we're doing, we appreciate everything you do, any amount. So we thank you for supporting us and doing what we do. Ultimately, we're doing it for the glory of God, period. That's the only reason that we're doing it. Yeah. And we feel like we've got a message. We feel like God's put this on our heart, me, Andy, and Thomas, all of us, to promote the kingdom. And, Andy and I talk a lot about law enforcement stuff. And that's kind of how this started, inspiring the next generation of the first responder, and I'm speaking with my hands. Thomas is over here, dodging my hands. But it can be so much bigger. We really want to get a broader message out to, we want to focus on that, but we also want anybody to benefit from this. We want men to benefit from this. We want women to benefit from this. We want youth to benefit from this, because we believe in the gospel of Christ, and we believe that if you follow that gospel, you're going to become that person that you need to be. we focus on driving men, but we want everybody to become that person that they can be.
Yeah.
Find that purpose, live with integrity, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Just all the different things that, let God fulfill your life. And when you follow him, you'll realize that, man, there was always so much more for you, and it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. And the things we talk about, and this is really the point, is that there's things that everybody should be able to benefit from. Not just, having integrity. That's not just something men should have. Women should have that as well. Self-discipline, purpose, all of those things belong to everybody as well. So,
well, without, as Sean Ryan says, I don't want to take his line, but without further ado, man, let's jump right into it. So, that's what we're talking about today is integrity. And
I have a question for you.
What's that?
So, what is integrity?
Lord. See, now this right here, so Thomas is going to put me on the spot.
Yeah. Eric said I have the steering wheel today.
Thomas has got
it's going to be all
now.
about Eric today now.
Oh, boy.
No. But what is integrity to you, Eric?
Well, I mean, to give you the packaged answer of what integrity is, it's, doing the right thing even when no one is looking.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's what we, again, I'm going back to the law enforcement thing, but when you're leading people and you're, trying to be that example for the guys that are following you, the people that are following you, rather, you have to drive that, man. You've got to instill in them. That's why we did what we did in law enforcement, because you wanted to do the right thing, even when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
Because there's never a time when, there's no one looking.
That's right.
And you know where I'm going with this. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be in your closet, you could be in your house, you could be in your car by yourself totally, but you're never truly by yourself.
That's right.
You always have a set of eyes on you. And that is, God, the Holy Spirit, however you want to term that. But God always sees what you do. And so in a morally, in a good moral career set like I was in, we have to do the right thing even when nobody's looking. And if that's how you look at integrity, if you have a high level of integrity, you're going to do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing of like, even more so than just you have a set of eyes on you all the time. That's definitely something to remember. Even more so than that is that what you do in private ultimately drives who you are in public. Even if you try to be somebody different, who you really are is who you are in private. Most people think who they really are is the show they put on in public, right. But if you want to know somebody intimately, you'll know them when they are in their secret place. You'll know them in that setting. And that's the thing of like, so what you do in private when no one's watching, when you don't think any eyes are on you, that is truly who you are. And then you have to ask yourself the question, is this who I really want to be, who I am in private?
That brings everybody, when I quote scripture, I know that I'm still young in my walk. That's the first time I've said I'm young in anything in a long time. But I'm still young in my walk, and I'm studying, and memorizing scripture is not a strong point for me. But it's in Romans. Almost it's 8:28.
I'm not
and
sure.
I could be wrong about this, but it's in Romans, I believe. Nothing is secret that will not be made manifest. So in saying that, and I'm sure if I misquoted that, please, don't call in and
the idea is right.
Yeah, the idea is right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, nothing is secret. That's not going to be. And it's basically nothing that you do eventually won't come. It's not going to come out.
Oh yeah.
How am I saying it? It's going to come out eventually.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
So I think that people are like that. How can I put this? The things that you do, the things that drive you, no matter what kind of show you put on, eventually are going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Erica and I were having a talk. And for those that are listening, everybody knows Erica's my wife. We discuss a lot of these things. Incredible woman. Probably one of the highest levels of honesty and integrity I've ever known in a person, which drives me to be a better person than what I was. But she made, we're talking about this, about how one thing will come out of, a person's mouth, and then if they're not being honest about it, and they're not living honestly about what they say, a person can only lie for about 3 months. They can only hold that for about 3 months. And then you start seeing the manifestation of what's truly behind them and what's real. And I think that that's a good point to bring out. Everybody's going to eventually, you can see somebody for the first time and they can tell you, hey, yeah, I'm a Christian. Hey, yeah, I'm a this, I'm a that. But as you get to know them, you start to see the real person.
Oh, yeah.
You start to see the genuine article behind the facade that they put out. And let's face it, do we all put out facades? There's a question for you. Do we all put out a front sometimes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even those of us with the best intentions put off a facade. And I think partly because there's a game we all play, and it's called life, in a sense. You know, this is psychology, getting into psychology, but we all are a part of this activity that we all participate in called life. And if we don't all participate in this game, you get people that are what are called dissidents, people that go on their own. They're the vigilantes. They're the people that go against the flow of what's going on, the status quo, I would say. And, you know, if you aren't okay being a part of that game, you know, the activity that we all participate in, you know, then you can just be whoever you think you are, you know, just be the way you are and don't worry about anybody else. So there is an aspect to like not putting on face, but being somebody in public that isn't going to be a disruptor, isn't going to be somebody that's, you know, angry. They're not just going, they have a filter. We all have a filter. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Mine might be broken.
And some of us have stronger filters than others, I'll say. And so I think that's really it, is our filters sometimes become too strong in the sense that they do turn into something ugly. That's something that's not supposed to be, which is that you start to put on face and you say, well, in front of this person, I'm going to be this way. And in front of this person, I'm going to be this way. In front of this person, I'm going to be this way. But that's not how it should be. We should be the same throughout. And if you have a problem, if you have any kind of like participating in the activity, the game of life, I'll say I'll say it's a game, but it's really just, it's an opportunity for all of us to participate in something together communally. And in order for that to happen, we have to be willing to work together.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that aren't willing to do that. Anyway, so with that, that's kind of the idea of putting on face. But then there are those people that do that out of greed. There are people that do that because they don't want anybody to see the inside of their life, to see the secret things, the things that they think people are going to not like about them, that's going to disqualify them from the game, you know, the activity of life. So they keep those things secret and hidden, when in reality, in order for them to participate better, it'd be better to know those things as a community, as a people. Like, it's better if, in order for God to really be able to work in that person's life, someone's got to know about it. And I think that's why the Bible is so clear about confession of sins, about going to people for healing and going to God for forgiveness. That's what the Bible teaches us. It's like we go to God, we find forgiveness for our sins. In order to walk away from that sin, it's not always just enough. It is sometimes enough to just go to God and accept forgiveness and walk away. But a lot of times it takes place in the talking with somebody else, talking about what it is, the secret things that are going on in our life, in order to actually walk away from those things and have integrity in our life and say, okay, now the person that I am in public is the person that I am in private.
Right.
And
let me ask you, there's something that kind of popped up just then when you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Because here's where I'm a study in duality. Okay. I got two faces there, and I don't know any other way to say that, but, you know, I hate social media.
Yeah.
I cannot stand social media.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm always on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't do the Snapchat, I don't do the Twitter or all that. I have Facebook and I have Instagram. And I understand that social media has made it where it's easy to connect with people. It's easy to keep up with people. But I also, talking about what we're talking about those, I feel like I'm talking really fast. Let me slow down.
It's because I talk really fast. I've got you.
Well, we got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. We've only got a limited time. But we're talking about the secret lives that people will live. You know, are you truly rising to your high level of integrity that you should be rising to if you're living those secret lives and you're not the person in public that you are in private? But all right, I'm gonna kind of bring this around with social media. What do you think? Do you think it's easier for people to live those false lives through social media? you go on social media, you look at somebody's page, you go to Facebook, whatever, and you see this person and their life is great and they got all these pictures posted and they got this, they got that, and they're always posting, happy, happy, joy, joy, and they're getting all these likes and everything else. But is their life really that way? Mm-hmm. We have too many people living through social media nowadays.
I think that it makes it easier in the sense that like people can really play up their life. Like they can really fool people, whereas I think that's just an extension of the problem that people have. That I think that even without social media, there would be those people, that would like, that's just, those people are around us all the time. They're always there. But with social media, it's like the digital world has allowed us to create a persona of ourselves that is so much bigger than we are.
Yeah.
That it's easier to do that. So it's like, in one way it is easier. You can really make your life look like something insane and really put on a really good face and make people think you are one way when your life is absolutely a disaster. Now, but if we didn't have social media, that would still be happening, just not on the level that it's happening today. Not because it's necessarily harder, but just because of the tools that are available through digital, Yeah. And so and if we think about it that way, what it becomes isn't necessarily so much about getting rid of social media. It becomes more about addressing the issue of the person, which is their lack of integrity. That wanting to be seen a certain way when in reality they're not willing to live that way. They're not actually willing to do what it takes to become that person. Instead, they want to put on the mask that shows that they are that person. And so that's the issue. And so we say, well, maybe social media is not the problem. It's definitely the symptom. And the more that person gets to do that and the more they see reward for doing that, it's going to continue that inside of them and make that go deeper and deeper and deeper. But if we can say, well, we're not going to reward you for this. Instead, we want to address the issue, which is that you are not who you say you are on social media in real life. You're catfishing all of us, whatever.
I hadn't heard that term in a long time.
Yeah, right. Then, we need to make sure that that's what we're talking about, not necessarily like, hey, social media is ruining your life. No, hypocrisy is ruining your life. Integrity, lack of integrity is ruining your life.
You're just using social media to further that.
Yeah, and that's really how all of, every tool we have is a tool. And in and of itself, nothing is necessarily evil except for the person that uses it. Guns aren't evil. People
Absolutely
that use
not.
guns are evil, right?
Okay.
In the same sense.
You open a door now, Thomas. You open a door for me there. I'm going to go through it.
Well, I just knew you would understand what I mean when I say that.
Absolutely.
In the same way, like this podcast is a tool. It's not necessarily evil. It's just, but it does provide a platform for us to talk to lots of people about things, and we could use it for evil or good. They're all tools. It just matters. What matters most is the heart and the intent of the people using the tool. The one, how are they being led? Are they being led by their own emotions, their own intent, their own heart? Or is their heart replaced by God's will, God's wants? Is God leading those things? Is true goodness being born out of it because it's being led by true goodness, who is Christ and God? So that's really what it comes down to. And I want to read this quote that really gives to me a really thoughtful definition of integrity. Easy to remember definition. And it says this, it says, integrity means that what you thought, what you said, and what you did are all the same.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, isn't that good?
That's a lot better than the packaged answer that I gave. That is awesome. I like that.
Well, it is what you said. It's just an easier way to say it.
It's just a different way to say it.
Yeah,
read it again, because I want to hear that again.
Integrity means that what you thought, what you said, and what you did are all the same.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And so that's one of the biggest things is what is the most secret part of yourself?
Are you asking me?
Well, I mean, it's rhetorical, I guess, in a sense, but you can answer if you want to. I mean, it's your thought. It's what you think.
Yeah.
No one knows what you think. No one, except for you, unless you tell them, unless you speak it. Right. So only God knows what we think. And in that, it says in the Bible that he knows the heart and the heart of man, and that even man himself doesn't know his own heart. Like that's how secret that place is within us. We don't even know our own heart, our own intent, our own motives.
Even when we
sometimes.
think we do.
Even when we think we do. Yeah, we fool ourselves. We're so good at fooling ourselves. And it says in Jeremiah that the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things, which is why we need a new heart. We need that new thing to live on the inside of us so that who we are in private becomes who we are in public. And it needs to be that new creature that God's making us into.
I got a quick question. Things are popping into my head. This is, for those that are listening today, we had another subject we were going to talk about. And I'm sorry, I was looking at something. We had another subject we were going to talk about, and it kind of got sidelined a little bit by Andy not being able to be here today. So thanks, Andy. Just kidding. Sorry, buddy. It's all your fault, but we still love you, man. So we had been talking, or we wanted to talk about this today because it's been on Thomas's heart, and it's kind of an impromptu discussion that we're having today. So kind of tying it back into one of the things that we all started with, we're going back to integrity being what it is in certain areas of society. People need to have that high level of integrity. How do you feel about now? At my point now, I don't see how people could go into the line of work that I went into and not believe in that higher power. Believe in my personal belief, and what I believe is the only truth out there is that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, period. Okay. But how could you go into that line of work and not believe in a higher power that produces, that gives you that high level of integrity? I understand that we have the church, separation of church and state, but I guess what I'm asking, how do you feel about it? You think that it should be something, you can't mandate it, you can't make it, and just like you can't make someone saved. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can't do that.
Right.
We have to choose that. That comes down to free will. That comes down to we have to choose God, and that's why God allows us to do the things that we do, because He wants us ultimately to choose Him. God could sit there and make us do whatever He wanted to do. You know that.
Yeah.
Hey, period. But that's not how it works. He wants you to choose Him.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but in law enforcement, in any kind of public service, military, fire, rescue, doesn't matter. Law enforcement. Do you feel like it's almost a prerequisite to have that kind of heart, to have that kind of faith, to believe in the Almighty, in order to be able to perform that kind of job?
To like a public service job?
Yeah, like a public service job.
I don't know that it's a prerequisite, because you can be moral and not be a Christian. You can be moral and not believe in God. And that's the thing that we have to understand as Christians, and the thing that we've got to know is that it's not enough to just be morally good. There are a lot of people that are morally good but don't believe in God. So you can have integrity and not be a Christian. You can be morally good and not be a Christian. Now, is it easier when you're a Christian? I don't think that's true either. I don't think it becomes easier. But here's the thing.
I might say just the opposite.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that have this whole thought process of, I'm a Christian. I gave my life to God. I've accepted Jesus. Life's going to be great now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, it does not work that way. But when you become a Christian, when you believe in God, what happens is your life starts to be built on a set of absolute moral beliefs, things that are always true, things that are always morally wrong, things that are always morally right. And so in that, now you have a framework to build your life around, to where you have less confusion in your life and you're able to walk with true integrity versus what you think, what you feel is right. And I think that's probably the higher level of integrity in, especially in Christianity, is that we believe the Bible's true, and the truths in that Bible are forever because they are true. Truth stands forever. It's absolute. It's not relative like the world wants to say it is today. And so when you have people going into law enforcement, you can have people going into public service that think that what is true and what is right only depends upon how I feel. You can easily, hopefully we can all see the problem with that,
Because if you're going off of feelings, you can your what you believe is right can vary
right
from time to time.
Right. Well, and I can easily say to you, Eric, like if you aren't a Christian and you have these moral beliefs, and I know you're not a Christian, and you're say you're police chief, and you're trying to make a decision about something that happened, and I can say to you, well, why should I trust what you believe? Well, which is different because you have to go according to the law of the land.
Right.
So you have these absolutes when it comes to the law. But in the same vein, I mean, just for a person in general, the question you have to ask is, why should I believe you? Why should I trust your opinion? Why should I trust what it is that you're saying? Because if you don't have integrity, like if I see that the person you are, I'm able to see that you're putting on a front. Okay, so you don't even know yourself enough to know that you're being somebody different when you're in private versus when you're in public. You're a totally different person. You're being hypocritical, whatever that thing is. And then you're trying to make judgment calls based on what is morally true, but your own life is contradictory to itself. My question would be, why should I trust you?
Because that's the definition of hypocrisy. Man.
Yeah. You see where that falls apart. In public service, a pastor needs to have integrity. They need to have these things so that they can properly counsel people and people will trust them. It comes down to trust. Like, am I going to trust somebody that I don't see living their life according to their beliefs? No, probably not, because I can see they're confused, or they don't believe what they say because they're not living it out. They say one thing, but they do something completely different. So no, I don't trust that. Or if somebody comes to me and says, no, I don't believe in any, truth is relative. But then they start making absolute claims about truth. It's like, well, hang on a second. Why should I trust what you're saying? Because you just told me that truth is relative. But now you're telling me things that I have to believe about what are true. You see the contradiction there. I shouldn't have to trust that. I don't trust that.
Right.
Instead, I'm going to trust something that is true based on the definition that it's absolute. No matter who believes it, no matter how many people believe it, it's something that is always true.
1 + 1 = 2. It's
Exactly.
not relative as to whether 1 + 1 is you think today is 3.
I feel like 1 is a 5 today.
Yeah, I feel like 1 + 1 is going to be
in this
7.
situation, yeah.
No, it's always going to be 2. And
Yeah.
it's I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to go back to the very beginning, kind of what we talked about. Like, why is this important to God? Why is integrity important? And that's one of the biggest questions you asked a second ago. Is should it be a prerequisite? And how do we? And you said we can't cause people to have integrity. Like, we can't make them have integrity, right? We can call it out, but we can't make somebody do anything. Just like we can't make somebody be saved. But I think the key is helping people value it. Like, if it's a core value in your life to have integrity, that's a value that you're not going to give up. That's something that you're going to uphold. And so I think for public service people, it should absolutely be something. Integrity should absolutely be the number one value they have.
Okay, so where should you start driving that? Where should you start? Again, a question for everyone to think about.
Yeah.
Where should that high level of integrity start? When
Yeah.
should it start? I think that it should start at, the youngest age possible you could start teaching your children that. So where do you start driving that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully it's something people look for when they're hiring people. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully we're not hiring people that we see lack integrity. I think that would be, so you asked, when should we start looking for that? I mean, the only way you can start looking for that.
When should you start driving to teach that integrity?
Yeah.
You can't teach it. Well, let me back up. All right. So having been on the side of hiring officers, hiring deputies, hiring, whatever, I've been in those roles. I can't teach you integrity when you're sitting across the table from me during an interview.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Right.
I can see and try to determine whether I believe you have what we need.
Right.
And you can apply this to any career field. It could be in the business market. You have to have a high level of integrity in the business market, or otherwise you're an unethical, fraudulent, foolish person. So you can apply it to anything.
Yeah.
But I can't sit there and develop that integrity for you during then. I don't think we need to be looking at. So it goes back to societally. Is that a word?
Sure.
Societal. It is today.
I think so.
Yeah, we just made up a word. I do that a lot. It goes back to where do we start driving and teaching and developing these high levels of integrity that we want to see? That's the question.
Yeah. I think it starts with us for sure. Like I think the most basic form of that, like where does it start? It has to start with ourselves first. It can't be, I'm going to go fix the world by, that's a lack of integrity in and of itself. This is getting meta. Okay. That's a lack of integrity of itself, is that I'm not going to live with integrity, but I'm going to tell everybody else that they need to.
Yeah. Don't look at me. Just do what I say. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, I think we should, but I'm going to tell everybody to, but I'm not going to work on it. So it's got to start with us. And then if it starts with us, if we're living our lives with integrity, first, people are going to see that. Like, people are just going to see that in our lives and say, wow, that is a person I can trust. And I think trust is the what would you call it? Like like money, the exchange, the thing we exchange for things.
I really don't know where you're going there.
What's money called? When it flows
Currency?
through currency. There you
Okay,
go.
there you go.
Trust is the currency of integrity.
I want that marked down today that I actually came up with the right answer.
You did. That was it. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, trust is the currency of integrity. And if you think about it, whenever your integrity is lacking and you hurt somebody because your integrity is lacking, what is the first thing to go? It's trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I believe integrity is so important to God, because it affects how other people, our relationship directly with other people. And if you don't have that integrity, they're not going to trust you. And in turn, they're not going to trust the God that you claim to follow.
And you know what? Talking about trust, that's such a hard thing to get back.
Yeah.
Because over a 30-year time span, and I'm going to put it out there, man. I betrayed people's trust. I did. I didn't do it willfully, but I let people down, man. And there were a lot of people throughout my career, throughout my time, that intentionally betrayed my trust. And where I'm going with this is once that trust is gone, it's so hard to get back. And you don't understand. A lot of people don't realize that when they do that to somebody, how they're affecting them long term. I'll tell you right now, man, I've got trust issues. I've had trust issues for a long time. I've seen so many people. I've got so many scars on my back from all the knives in my back that it's just rough.
I'm sure there are a lot of people even listening to this.
But and I'm not unique to anything. There's a lot of people that have gone through that. But people don't realize that if you do that to somebody, it can have a long-term lasting effect that can skew how they see the world and their ability to accept that currency, as you stated, and trust other people.
Yeah.
So it's all this stuff. If you're not practicing those high levels of integrity and all the fruits that come from that, you're being toxic because you could be affecting somebody down the road.
Oh yeah.
And you don't really realize just how bad it will. And like I said, I've got trust issues, man. I work on them, and I'm working on them now. But they manifest a lot of times, and it's a hard thing to get rid of.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of people say, well, the things I do in secret, they're not hurting anybody. They're things that only I know about. Like, it's not, why should I have to deal with these things? Like, they're not that bad. Here's the thing. If trust is the currency of integrity, and you don't have integrity in your own secret place, what you're doing in private is different than what you're doing in public. You're doing these secret things that are not good. Who's the first person that you break trust with? Yourself.
Yep.
You can't trust your own self.
Yeah.
Which don't tell me that does not have an effect on the people around you when you can't trust your own self.
Oh, 100%. But how many people are being honest with the fact that, I can't even trust my own self?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
You also have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
The two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty deep there.
Yeah, I mean, that's getting down to the nitty gritty, is when trust is broken with yourself, then it becomes easier to walk in distrust, and you stop, I mean, it hurts your confidence. It builds shame to not be able to trust yourself, all these things. And there are instances where you should say, hey, I can't trust myself with this thing, so I'm not going to go in this direction. So that's where you have integrity. That's where that line starts to be drawn, is like, oh, hang on, this thing, even in private, I can't trust myself with, so I'm going to start staying away from it. And I know that you understand that concept, and I do too. There are certain things that I can't trust myself with because I broke my own trust because I lacked integrity a long time ago, And so in that you said, and that was such a good point to make, is building trust is probably one of the most difficult things to do when we've lost trust because of integrity. And here, I think this might be why, is because when you break trust, that integrity is about your identity. Like, it's about who you are. So when you break trust with somebody, or you break you break your integrity, they have to see that you are not the person that did that thing, that your identity is different than who you were whenever that thing happened that you broke trust doing. And that's why it's so difficult, because that means you have to show me your character over a long period of time for me to start to trust you again.
Walk the walk, not talk the talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got to build that integrity again in order for the currency of trust to start passing between relationships again.
Yeah.
And there are some people that are easily, like, they are easily trusting, so they pass that back and forth. But for a lot of people, especially someone like you, I'm sure once integrity is broken, it's really difficult to earn that trust back because of your past,
It is. It's not impossible. I'll tell you, there's people that there's people that I feel have, wronged me in the past. To a point, at one point, I was like, I have no problem shutting people out. And I don't want to be that way. Everybody deserves forgiveness. I definitely, I say everybody deserves forgiveness. Everybody should be, we don't deserve anything. Mm-hmm. We deserve eternity in hell. That's what we deserve.
That's right. Yeah.
But through God's grace, we're offered forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that's there for everyone. So if I was forgiven by God, if Jesus forgave me of my sins, which we're not even going to get into here, okay, because we'd be here for like 2 weeks. Who am I to not forgive?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I like to sit there and say, all right, I'm a manly man, I'm a strong, tough guy, blah, 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 blah. But, we've talked about this before. If we're trying to follow the ultimate example of masculinity and what a man should be, I should also offer freely the forgiveness to those who are asking that of me.
Right.
Now, there have been people that have wronged me, yeah. And I've been able to, through communication, and which is a big thing. You really need to learn how to communicate. If you don't know how, you need to learn how to communicate with the people that are in your lives, because lack of communication causes so many problems. Different story for a different day. But through communication, I've been able to, all right, you know what? I get it. I forgive you. But even then, man, you got to start showing me that you're worthy of that forgiveness before that trust builds back.
Oh, yeah. You can forgive somebody but not trust them.
Absolutely.
That's...
I can even forgive somebody and still not like them.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily...
Because unforgiveness is something that eats away at you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It really does.
And so that's why you can't... Okay, it's like, oh, no, I've forgiven this person. I don't have any hard feelings towards them.
But I don't want them in my life.
But like I'm not going, like, I forgive the snake for biting me, but I'm not going to stick my hand back over because I don't trust the snake.
I still think that it's a snake.
Yeah, like it's still a snake. Yeah, like its
and I get it.
character has not changed.
And I go to this. Did Jesus like everybody? Was Jesus always nice? That's a question there. So you got to need to be like Jesus. Be like Jesus. Oh, Jesus wasn't nice all the time.
No.
Jesus was kind. There's a difference. You
There
need to
is.
understand
That's
what the
right.
difference
That's
is
good.
there. Now, did Jesus like
That's a whole
everybody?
podcast
Oh my!
episode.
Oh, is it not? Wow. Did Jesus like everybody? I don't. Okay, he came down here in the form of a man. Now,
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to. I'm in no way trying to dispute anything or go against anything or even be sacrilegious. I'm not. But you can't tell me that having to deal with the emotions that men have, and he did, that he liked everybody. He loved everybody. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. He offered everybody that salvation.
that
He loved it.
compassion and-
But I guarantee you, there's some people that he's like, I don't
Oh,
necessarily
I mean,
like
just
this,
look at. I mean, he calls the Pharisees a brood of vipers. I mean, what do you?
Exactly.
You don't call somebody that you're like, you're in. That's just strong language. You know,
It's
if we
very
were to
strong
do
language.
that
Yeah, it's
today,
very strong
you would be
language.
like, wow, he doesn't like those people.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I
So-
mean? So like, Jesus was
But
operating
did he
like a
offer
man,
them forgiveness?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, he
yes,
did.
absolutely. Nicodemus came to him. He was one of the Pharisees. He
Yeah,
came
so
to
you
him.
can sit there with, I forgive you. And you're still going on trust, but I mean, I forgive you, but I pray for you. I hope you find Jesus. But it doesn't necessarily mean I want to associate with you.
Yeah.
You know. Now, can that change? Sure, it can change.
Yeah.
You know, if you show me and you that true transformation of the heart is there, I could see where that could change. But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because I forgive you, I've got to bring you into my circle.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Yeah, now that's absolutely true, and you know that's difficult. It's difficult to, I think, bridge the gap between Jesus's ministry and what we just talked about, because I think a lot
Yeah,
of
I can
people
see
have
that.
a difficult time with, hey, how do I love people and have integrity? How do I love people and have integrity? I mean, like, that's really the question, because it's like, this person just, they don't treat me right. They don't treat others right. You know, there's just this thing. Maybe they've even wronged me, you know, and the disciples come to Jesus and they're like, hey, you know, how many times are we supposed to forgive people that do us wrong? And he's like 7 times. And Jesus says, well, 70 times 7, you know, it's not about
Yeah,
a number.
it's not about a number.
It's about the fact that, yeah, you're supposed to just forgive. That's you've been forgiven of much, so you forgive much. But in that, you don't be stupid. You be smart and you
Right.
be wise, you know, and shrewd. And you say, well, I'm not going to put myself in a position to be hurt again, because I know that's what's going to happen. Now, in the future, maybe they will earn my trust enough to where I could see something and say, okay, I will. And I know people that have done that. That it's like, okay, I'm going to start stepping back into this relationship because I want a relationship.
I've done that. You know, I mean, I have. I've done that, and I get it. But that, you know, you talk about, can we bridge that gap with what we're talking about? I mean, you offer the forgiveness, and maybe this is a bad reference. And you're the pastor, not me. You probably have it memorized where it is, but you know, it's even said, if they don't listen to you, you know, shake the dust off your feet and leave. You know, so
Yeah,
is that a
right,
good
right,
reference
right.
to there? It's like, you know, are we bridging the gap? You know, Jesus loved everybody. He gave forgiveness to everybody. He opened the door for everybody to receive salvation. I believe that. Not everybody's going to walk through it, and at some point, I'm sure that Jesus came across some people, like you said. You know, he called them a brood of vipers.
Yeah.
It just keeps kind of resonating in my head. If they're not going to listen to you, you know, shake the dust off your feet and move on.
Yeah, and
You know?
I think for as far as the gospel goes, like that's, you know, that's kind of what they were doing. They were spreading the gospel. They were taking what Jesus had given them. That was when he sent the disciples out with his authority, and they were doing miracles. And he's just said, "Hey, you know, you go to a town, do these things. If they don't listen, if they're not responding, just shake your dust off and leave.
Yeah.
But you've done your work, you know." And it's kind of like, just don't worry about it. It'll be okay. I'll take care of that. You don't have to be the one to try so hard to do that. It's not your job. But in that, there's truth to that, which is, I think there's this theme throughout the Bible, which is that we do whatever it is that is necessary to point people to Jesus. Like, we do whatever is necessary in order to do that. And, you know, you see it in like 1 Corinthians 5, where Paul talks about, dealing with church membership, in that there was somebody that was like, the thought is that they were sleeping with their father's wife. And he's like, you've talked to this person, you've dealt with this person many times, you've done the church membership stuff. Now the idea is just exile them from the community of believers for a time, or just permanently until they do what it is that is necessary in order to be a true Christian. But what you do is you treat them as if they're an unbeliever. That doesn't mean you treat them poorly. You don't treat them wrong. You don't treat them badly. It just means you distance yourself from them and you treat them in a way that is as if they're lost, which means you actually have more compassion. Because usually, like when Jesus is dealing with people that should know better, he's a little bit more aggressive. But when he's dealing with people that are ignorant and are lost in their sin, he has way more compassion.
Yeah.
And that's how he treats the lost. The saved, he treats with discipline. The lost, he treats with compassion. That's how he operated. And we should do the same. When someone hurts us and they're lost, we have to understand we can't make lost people act saved. So it's like, okay, well, that person, I'm going to treat them like a lost person. I'm going to have compassion. I'm not going to stick my hand back in the spider jar and get bit again. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be dumb. But at the same time, if it's somebody that's a Christian, we've got to deal with this thing. There's a proper way to go about it. We're going to try to deal with it. If we can't deal with it, we're going to bring it to somebody else. We can't deal with it with a mediator. We're going to bring it to the church. If we can't deal with it about it with the church, Jesus goes through the entire how you do that. And then what Jesus says at the end of that is, look, if they're still unrepentant of this thing and they're unwilling to move on, you treat them as you would a lost person. And so you see Paul implementing what Jesus talked about in Matthew at that point. And so we have to understand in our own lives, if we've done everything we possibly can to work something out with somebody, and they're still not working it out, like it's still not happening, the best thing we can do for them, the most loving thing we can do for them sometimes, is to distance ourselves from them and to show them compassion and love through not entertaining their ability to break our trust. That's kind of the idea. And you treat them as if they're lost. You show them compassion and you say, okay, I'm going to treat them as if they are a lost person. And if they are lost, you do exactly the same. It's the same exact thing, which is to evangelize and help them hopefully see their need for Jesus. Like we all need Jesus.
You said a whole lot in everything you just said there. There's a lot of good points that you talked about. But the one thing, and maybe it's my one-track mind, maybe it's my knuckle-dragger mentality, I don't know. The one thing that you pointed out in there that I really, really heard was discipline. And if you tie this back to what we kind of want to talk about, what we kind of are trying to drive today, you have to exercise a high level of discipline in order to exercise a high level of integrity.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that the discipline you were talking about is the discipline of how I deal with somebody that should know better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we can also apply that to us too.
Yeah, right.
And if you're being honest with yourself, discipline plays a huge part in all that.
Yeah.
I don't know, just kind of
self-control.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a fruit of the Spirit,
it's
something that it's something we are supposed to have. And all the fruit of the Spirit, those virtues are practiced. They're not things that you just have. They're things that you work on. So like patience comes by practicing patience, not because you just have patience. Some people are more patient than others.
I'm not.
Self-control is the same thing. It's practiced self-control. Yeah. It's not just, hey, you either have it or you don't. It's that you are put in positions where you have to have self-control.
Do you think that you can develop that high level of discipline in order to try to put those things into practice?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, God wants to develop that in us, as a matter of fact. I mean, he tells us in Hebrews that he chastens those he loves. He wants us to grow. He wants us to grow in the fruit of the Spirit. He wants those things to become our values. That's the new heart he puts on the inside of us as we develop the fruit of the Spirit, which is, peace, joy, love, patience, long-suffering, self-control, all those things. And so Galatians 15, just go and read that. Yeah. And you'll see all those things require practice. which is
Struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call it what it is. It's
Exactly.
struggles.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. In order for you to grow in something, in order for your body to get fit, you have to struggle, right?
How do you
no
increase
pain,
your
no
strength?
gain,
You
right?
got to lift more weight. You got to
Yeah.
you got to constantly push and push and push.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
and that thought process actually was so prevalent that there became actually this movement, which is it's heretical, but it was like this self-punishment thing where we're going to discipline our bodies ourselves so that we grow. But the reality is not that we do things that we knowingly are having to like do things to ourselves to beat ourselves up so that we have to practice these things. It's that in the midst of whatever life brings to us, that's when we have the opportunity to practice our self-control, practice our patience, our joy, our peace, all of these things. Because that means we have to go back to the fundamental, which is that we have integrity because we are spending time with God in our private life. We're spending time, like who we are in private is who we walk into being in public. And so when we come against these struggles, all the things we've been practicing now can be implemented.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the thought behind it. That's my thinking behind it. And I want to leave us with this. We can kind of wrap this up if you want, but
Oh man, I'm good.
if you've got thoughts, we can keep going. But Proverbs 28:6, and this is the value. This is the key to, I don't know, not happiness, but living with integrity. And this is what the Bible says about it, and this is what we should always remember. In Proverbs 28:6, it says, "Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than one perverse in his ways, though he be rich." So you can have all the things in the world and lack integrity, and you're no better than the person who's poor and has high integrity. Because to God, success in life is not how much you have, it's who you are.